Jack Stabrowski here. Before we start our discussion about new product development, I think it's important that we go back and review the basics of product management. And of course, the starting point for that is the review of classifying products. First, a couple of quick quotes. Customers assess your firm's value to them through the products and services you offer. So a company like Buick isn't got anything to do with the people at Buick or anything else. It really has to do with your view of their products. Same thing with Honda or Toyota or one of those companies. Merle Crawford, a famous writer in the area of new product development, said a successful new product does more good for the organization than anything else that can happen. Think about the introduction of the first iPhone or even the iPhone 8 as a new product. What about a new product failure is my comment. New product failures probably are not quite as damning as the positive aspect of a new product. But in some cases, product failures signal the end of a business and the organization around it. So what is a product? Well, a product is any need-satisfying offering. A product is anything that can be offered to satisfy a want or need, including physical goods, services, persons, as in political campaigns, places, as for instance, marketing Las Vegas, experiences, for instance, the NASCAR experience, organizations like United Way and the National Cancer Association, and ideas. The key with any product is providing something the customer wants and needs and therefore values. There are two foundations associated with product management. One is the marketing concept. That is identifying unmet wants and needs, identifying and developing a good service or experience that meets those needs and meets the organization's objectives. The second aspect of product management is this whole concept of the exchange paradigm. Remember in the very first chapter, I talked about the idea that marketing was the science of exchange. And this exchange paradigm talks about what gets exchanged. If you do not have something that customers want, need, and value, they're not interested in making an exchange for it. And therefore, no sales take place and the product is a failure. Product classification schemes. There are a number of different product classification schemes. Your book talks about a couple of them. I'll bring up another one or two. The first one your book talks about is a classification scheme of durables versus non-durables. This is the distinction between a good or service that is not used up as it is as you experience the product. So, for instance, an automobile is a durable good. A refrigerator, a lawnmower, clothing, things that even though you experience them and you use them as a consumer, they don't get used up in one or two uses. A non-durable good then is something that is used up as you experience it. Gasoline, food. Those are the kinds of things that are non-durables. And then, of course, the third item in this classification scheme would be a service, which is the ultimate non-durable good because it is used up even if you don't experience it. And an example would be an empty seat on an airplane. If that airplane takes off and the seats are empty, that service is gone even if no one actually consumed it. The distinction and the reason that we talk about this particular classification is because people tend to think about durable goods differently than they do non-durables and services. If you make and this comes down to the idea that if I buy a durable good, I have to live with it for a significant amount of time. So if I do a bad job of picking a particular shirt or a pair of shoes or a lawnmower or an automobile, and it does not turn out to be what I expected, I end up having to
deal with that for quite a period of time. And as a result, individuals tend to spend more time shopping and more time thinking about purchasing durable goods. Non-durable goods, on the other hand, may be just as expensive. For instance, a vacation may cost as much as an automobile, but the thought process that goes into it tends to be not quite as lengthy. The evaluation is different, and then one of the kind of neat things about a non-durable is, if I have a bad meal, it's a bad meal. It's over. It's past, and I move on to something else. And of course, we're going to talk about services in a couple of lectures from now. Another approach to classifying products is what's something called shopping effort. That is, how much effort is the consumer willing to make to secure the product. And this comes down to convenience goods, which of course consumers would use the least amount of effort to obtain. And then shopping goods, specialty goods, and then unsought goods where in fact, not only do they not spend any shopping effort, they actually wait for the goods to come to them. So let's talk about each of these. Convenience goods are goods that an individual will buy the alternative that happens to be available. An example of things that are typically considered to be convenience goods are items that you would find at a convenience store. And so if you think about a convenience stores all carry staples. They carry the three basic food groups of sustainability. That is, they carry bread, milk, and beer and soft drinks. And so they do carry staples. Now, which staples do you buy when you go to the store? Well, the answer is at a convenience store. If it's a convenience good for me, I'm just there to buy bread. I'm just there to buy milk, and I'm just there to buy beer. And I don't really, and the brand is not as important, and I'm not willing to spend a lot of effort shopping for it. A second kind of convenience good is an impulse good. This is something that you suddenly just decide that you have to have. And of course, if you go to a convenience store, the goods that are the closest to the cash register tend to be the most impulse oriented. One of the favorite impulse goods at a convenience store tend to be sunglasses, but there are lots of others. Beef snacks and chewing gum and all the other sorts of things that you find close to the cash register. And then finally, another convenience good is an emergency good. This is where you really just absolutely have to have something. For instance, you have a splitting headache and you need aspirin. You simply are willing to buy whatever aspirin are available. All right, and so if you think about shopping effort and convenience goods are goods that people are not willing to spend much time and effort for, but in fact will buy whichever item is available. As a result, the key to success for convenience goods is wide distribution. Why? Well, because people buy the one that's available. So if people are buying the one that's available, you want to make sure that yours is available at every conceivable location. The next type of good is called a shopping goods, and there are two kinds of shopping goods. One's a homogeneous shopping good, and the other is a heterogeneous shopping good. A homogeneous shopping good is a good that consumers see as the same except for price. An example of this might be something like alkaline batteries. We go to the store and we're looking for batteries, and there are 3 or 4 different brands of batteries. But we basically think that all the batteries most of us would say the batteries are all the same. And as a result, what do I tend to do? I tend to look for the brand that I can get the best deal on. So consumers see these products as basically the same except for price, but they're willing to spend some time and effort shopping for price. I think batteries are a really good example of this. Of course, what are the keys then for these sorts of products? Low cost distribution, that is making sure that you can get the product to the consumer at the lowest possible cost. And then good manufacturing so that you can produce high quality products at the lowest possible price. And so it's cost controls, it's manufacturing costs, and it's low cost distribution. Now, heterogeneous shopping goods are different from homogeneous shopping goods because consumers see these goods as differentiated and are typically looking for combinations of product attributes and features at the best price. An example of this might be, for some people, a big screen TV. And so what they're looking for is screen size, they're looking for picture resolution, they might be looking for internet readiness. They might be Wi-Fi. There might be a number of things that they're looking for, and of course, what consumers are doing is they're willing to trade off one feature for another, and so these are sort of goods that people spend a lot of time shopping for. So they'll go to the store and they'll compare 5 different brands of TVs, maybe different ranges and sizes, maybe different ranges in terms of surround sound and speaker quality, maybe in terms of picture quality, maybe in terms of whether or not they are Wi-Fi accessible. And so the key when you're talking about shopping goods, of course, is product differentiation. Trying to produce a bundle of attributes that you think provide the best value for customers. Next product category is called specialty goods. These are goods that consumers see as highly differentiated to the point that they do not perceive other brands as substitutes and will not accept or buy other brands. And so they are willing to go through a huge amount of effort to get a very specific product. This is the ultimate goal for most marketers. They want their product to be considered to have no substitutes, to be the ultimate product with no substitutes. Coca-Cola tries to get you to believe that there are no substitutes for Coca-Cola. It's the real thing. Pepsi tries to get you to believe that there are no substitutes for Pepsi. And for some of us, that's true. That if Coca-Cola is not available, we won't drink Pepsi. And for those people, then even something like a soft drink might be a specialty good. Now, the idea behind this is that all companies wish that their brand had that much power, that it was so unique in the mind of the consumers and positioned so well in the mind of consumers that people were willing to go to great lengths to buy their product. Now, the key to success in managing specialty goods is to manage the product uniqueness, and that is make sure that whatever it is that makes our product unique is shielded so that new competitors don't come in and try to take that position away from us. Now, when we think about these goods, there is So the fourth version of these goods is called an unsought goods. These are goods that people will not seek out. Instead, they expect these goods to find them. An example of this for people who live in Las Vegas might be things like water softeners, solar screens, solar panels, window tinting, things, landscaping, things that you don't really have to go out and look for. Somehow those people find you. And of course, if you're in that kind of a business, the key to success is prospecting. Now, when we think about these 4 different kinds of shopping efforts, there's a little bit of what's called a Pygmalion effect here, and that is if you believe your product is something and you manage it like it is a shopping good, then customers are likely to perceive it as a shopping good. The other part of the problem with shopping effort is what is a convenience good for you might be a shopping good for me and a specialty good for someone else. An example of this might be something as simple as a bottle of water. Is a bottle of water a convenience good, or will you only buy 3 or 4 different brands, in which case it's a shopping good? Or is there only one brand of water that you really want to drink and you really will only buy one brand of water? And then for you, even water is a specialty good. So it's a little bit more problematic to try to market your goods based on this, but it is important to understand this way of classifying products. Another way to classify products, business-to-business products, is industrial products is to think about them, and remember this idea of derived demand, whether they are installations, accessory equipment, raw materials, component parts and materials, supplies, and professional services. And your book talks a little bit about these. And once again, much like products, the idea behind doing these sorts of classifications is to understand that for many companies, the way that they purchase these different kinds of products varies. And then finally, what I wanted to talk to you about was a benefit-sought approach to classifying products. And this isn't in your book, but I think it's very important. And this has been around for quite a while. And this argument is that products provide three different kinds of benefits. That is, some benefits that products supply are functional benefits. These are benefits that solve consumption-related problems. They solve problems, they prevent problems, they resolve conflict, they remove frustration. This would be an example of this is a product that is a stain remover. It is primarily a functional product, right? Because it's designed to solve a very specific problem. I have a stain in my shirt or a stain in my carpet, and this product is designed to solve that problem. Or I have a problem, my teeth aren't white enough. Well, then maybe the product that you see on the shelves might be something that is a teeth whitening product. Once again, functional benefits. Second sort of benefits that some products have are called symbolic benefits. These are benefits related to self-enhancement, role position, group membership, ego identification, self-image maintenance, etc. These are benefits associated with the visibility in the product and the way that people see you when you possess and use that product. So some people own a Rolex wristwatch. Well, the wristwatch, maybe $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. It doesn't keep time dramatically better than other wristwatches. A little bit better maybe, but you can buy a wristwatch that keeps very good time for $30. And so part of the value of owning and wearing a Rolex is to have other people see that Rolex on your wrist and say, that person must be important or successful. They own a Rolex. The third sort of benefit are called experiential benefits. These are benefits related to sensory pleasure or cognitive stimulation. These are products that stimulate the mind or body. The ultimate experiential product is probably a scary movie, where you go to the movie and and the whole point behind the movie is to cognitively stimulate you and scare you. Another example might be something like a roller coaster or any other product or service that in fact provides you with either mental or physical stimulation. Now, the interesting about this is that almost all products have a little bit of each of these. For an example, think about an automobile. Well, automobiles have functional benefits in terms of safety, reliability, miles per gallon, those sort of things. Some automobiles have a number of symbolic benefits associated with them. For instance, driving a Mercedes is probably symbolic. Or perhaps driving a Prius or a hybrid automobile might be symbolic, that you are concerned about the environment and are interested in conserving fossil fuels. And then if you think about automobiles, many automobiles are experiential. I don't know how many of you actually own an automobile that's fun to drive, but the fun part of driving an automobile is the experiential part. All right, and so some automobiles are mostly functional. Some automobiles are functional and symbolic. Other automobiles are functional, symbolic, and experiential, with maybe the emphasis on experiential. Here's another example. This might be something as simple as getting a haircut. You can go to the store, you can go down to Supercuts and get a haircut, and that's mostly a functional experience. You might go to a high-end barber shop that your friends recommend, and maybe that part of the benefit of going to that particular place is that people see you there, and as a result, it's a symbolic benefit. And then finally, my particular barber shop is like a three-ring circus when I go there. It's always sort of live entertainment. So when I go there, for me, it's a very experiential haircut. That is, it's really sort of mentally and cognitively stimulating when I go to the barber shop, both the conversation and the activities that take place there.